Alright guys, hope you're all doing well. Today I wanted to talk about NPC difficulty and show you the build that I'm currently optimizing, which, as of right now, it does pretty well against challenging difficulty. Now I pretty much finished this video yesterday, and then we have the maintenance where the devs nerfed the Negev LMG, the weapon I was using for my build, because the damage was reportedly 50% higher than intended. So with that in mind, I decided to remake this video with the now nerfed Negev LMG, so I could see if my opinion on difficulty has changed. You know what? It hasn't. NPC difficulty has been a huge talking point since the expansion released, and some of the devs have talked about front and center on Wednesday's State of the Game. Now I agree with what the devs had to say about how early this expansion is and how very few people have any sort of optimized build yet. The expansion has been out, 4 days or so? And I don't think we've played nearly enough to start really commenting on difficulty quite yet. The game is more difficult for sure, but the build I'm running, which I'm going to show you in a second, is non-optimized with no brand talents active, and I run through hard content very easily. Challenging is much more challenging, of course, but the build I'm using is so bad, so yeah, sure, I'm going to struggle. Plus, it's worth saying that the harder the content becomes, the more it becomes about you as a player rather than the gear that you're actually using. Sure, you need to use great gear to play heroic, but I'd probably get shredded because I'm still learning how to play hard content, whereas others will likely find it much easier using the same gear. Let's go over the build that I'm currently running, talk about what needs to be done to make it better, and then I want to talk about the only real concern I have with difficulty at the end of the video. Alright guys, so this is the build that I'm currently using for pretty much every bit of content in the game at the moment. I'm still very much working on it, and I'm going to show you what needs to be done essentially to make the build that I'm kind of looking for, which I'm not totally sure yet. There's so many varieties of how this could be done that I'm not really totally sure what I want yet. I'm just still trying to farm for the parts. So the weapon of choice is the Carnage, which is the named Negev LMG. It's got perfect sadist, which gives you 25% weapon damage to bleeding enemies, and that's pretty strong when you think about it, especially if you pair it with something like the Stinger Hive, which applies bleed. This has got 12 charges on it, so you can apply bleed to multiple targets, and you're going to be doing 25% damage to all of those targets. I have been using the Seeker Mine as well, the explosive, but obviously that only goes for one target, whereas the Hive, it can go for multiple targets. Probably best to get like a radius boost on that or something. Still looking for the mods for that. The second weapon is the White Death, which is my sniper, just because it's got really high damage. But really what's important here is the build itself. And again, this is, as you can see already, this is not optimized at all. The pieces are in the wrong slot, so I haven't got any brand talents really that I want. So, and this is the build that I've been using for challenging and doing okay. Hard is easy with this build. So importantly, we've got 3 pieces of striker, which is what I'm going for, because the 2 pieces is 15% weapon handling, which is pretty good for the LMG because it gives you a reload buff, stability, and all of that good stuff. And then we've got the 3 pieces which gives you 15% rate of fire, which is again unbelievably strong, which is why it puts my Carnage RPM up to around 1,000 nearly, which is, yeah, just really strong. Again, you could put it on something else, like you could use it on whatever else, but I think the Carnage, the LMG, is still actually very strong. I've tested it out again since the maintenance yesterday. It's still very strong. I've not gone for 4 pieces with Striker, simply because I think it's so punishing when you miss a bullet, and it's actually very difficult, certainly with an LMG, very difficult to keep your stacks up in order to make it beneficial. And let's not forget, if you're running 4 pieces, it means that you're probably, I mean, I guess you could run 4 pieces plus a chest and a backpack to give you the 2 brand talents, but I don't know. I think I'd rather go with something like 10% LMG damage from Petrov, which is consistent damage, 10%, rather than try and rely on keeping my stacks up from Striker. So yeah, we've gone for 3 pieces of Striker. Now I wouldn't have them here, okay? So when you're going for 3 pieces of Striker, there's no reason why you would have a Striker's chest piece, because you're giving up a brand talent to do that, or a high-end talent to do that, and there's no point. So what you're going to want to have maybe is anything else aside from the chest piece and the backpack. Any other pieces. So let's say, for example, with this, we've got a mask, we've got gloves, and we've got knee pads, yeah? That's my Striker pieces. Okay, so that leaves the chest, the backpack, and the holster. So for the holster, I would be running Petrov, because it gives you that flat 10% damage, which really you're not getting in too many other places. You're not getting that kind of just base amount of damage anywhere else, really. You could run other gear sets, but really nothing else gives you that flat damage that you need. And then we've got the backpack and the chest piece. Now, there's a couple of pieces of gear that could work well here. You could run something like Gilligard, which gives you that 5% armor, but unfortunately armor is not really something that's, we're going to talk about this towards the end of the video, but armor is not really something you should invest in at the moment because it really does nothing. You could have something like Providence, which gives you headshot damage, which with an LMG in cover is actually not too difficult, and also it gives you crit chance, and crit chance is going to be strong as well in this update, very strong in this update. In fact, what you could do is you could take off Petrov if you really wanted to, and you could run 3-piece Providence, which would give you the crit chance and crit damage, and then you can just make sure that your core attributes are weapon damage and your attributes go towards crit damage and crit chance, and then you're going to have yourselves a very strong DPS build. Now, this build particularly is not invested all of it in damage. Some of it's in damage, as you can see, and some of it's actually 2 pieces of it are going to more towards a little bit of armor. Not that it makes much difference, but I just feel better when I've got it. Now, in respect of the talents for the backpack, this is where it kind of comes together. So what I've done is I've wrote down a few talents that I think would work here. So this particular one, Bloodsucker, is an amazing talent on the backpack. Killing an enemy adds and refreshes a stack of plus 10% bonus armor for 10 seconds. And the max stack is 10. And this is really strong. Now, if you pair this with the talent, which I don't actually have yet, called Intimidate, which is on the chest piece, which is, while you have bonus armor, which you're going to be getting from Bloodsucker there, amplifies total weapon damage by 35% to enemies within 10 meters. So that's a straight, and that's amplifies, by the way, guys. So it takes all of your damage together, it takes everything, okay, all of it, works it all out, and then it applies the 35% on top of that. So it's a huge amount of increased damage. So you would have Bloodsucker on the backpack, Intimidate there on the chest piece, and then you'll get an extra 35% damage when you've got bonus armor up, which you'll find is most of the time when you're in combat. In fact, you get it a lot of the time. I get up to about 6 or 7 stacks most of the time when I'm using Bloodsucker, if not more. So this is going to be proccing pretty much all of the time. Some other ones you could consider is something like Composure on the backpack, which is, while in cover, increases total weapon damage by 15%, which again is strong. Just having that flat 15% for being in cover. Now, if you pair that with something like Overwatch, for example, which you can get on the chest piece. So the Overwatch talent says that after staying in cover for 10 seconds, increase you and your allies' total weapon and skill damage by 12%, as long as you remain in cover or in a cover-to-cover move. So you're getting 15% from Composure, and then if you just wait there for a period of time, which you find you will do with LMGs, you're going to find that you spend a lot of your time in cover, because when you're moving around with LMGs, the crosshairs are everywhere. So it pairs really well with an LMG. So after 10 seconds, you get an additional like 12% or whatever of damage, or you get more damage essentially. So those two pair really well together. If you're running maybe going into PvP, then I would probably consider using Unbreakable on the chest piece. When your armor is depleted, repair 95% of your armor, although in PvP I think it's 55%. It's still clutch. It's still like having Nomad. In fact, it's good in PvE as well. I don't really know what I would pair with that for a backpack, but I guess anything to give you, you could pair that with Composure to give you that extra kind of weapon damage, or any other talent which gives you weapon damage. You could use something like Vigilance on the backpack there, which increases total weapon damage by 25%. Taking damage disables this buff for 4 seconds. If you're in cover, then the chances are that you're not going to be, using... you're not going to be taking a whole load of damage, so Vigilance actually becomes very, very strong in that moment. So something like Unbreakable on the chest and then Vigilance on the backpack would be really strong. Another one that I would consider is a status effects one. Now, as you can see with this build, I'm trying to get Bleed on the go, which is why I'm running Hive. So what I thought was, well, what about status effects? What could I apply here? So maybe you could run something like on the backpack Wicked, which, applying a status effect, increases total weapon damage by 18% for 20 seconds. So you throw out your Hive, everyone bleeds, you get 25% damage from Perfect Sadist here on the Carnage, or just Sadist as an overall talent, which gives you 20%. And then on the backpack, you get an extra 18% to those targets for 20 seconds as well. And then on the chest, you could then run something like... what else do we have there? Actually, I think Wicked is probably the best one to go there. I'm not sure what you'd run on the chest. I haven't really found any good chest pieces that would work well with that. But any other status effect kind of talent would work well there. what I was saying earlier about running crit chance and crit damage, I just want to quickly go back to. If you're running a crit chance, crit damage build and you're going full DPS, using something like Obliterate is going to be really strong. Critical hits increase total weapon damage by 1% for 5 seconds and stacks up to 15 times. You'll find that you're going to get that pretty easily, which is an additional 15%. And if you're sitting in cover while you're doing it, or whatever, you could use something like Composure on the backpack because Obliterate's a chest piece talent, or you could use Vigilance. There's so many options here, guys. It's crazy. And this build, as you can see, it's got nothing. Like, it really has. I mean, the armor's fairly low if you consider that I've only got 2 pieces of armor. I've got like no, I mean, this hasn't even got a mod on it. In fact, I wasn't even using Bloodsucker in my most recent footage and stuff, so that's only just helped it. But I mean, none of this is optimized. If you look at my build here, the only thing that's optimized is the weapon damage here. But aside from that, I mean, this is all over the place. I haven't really made any. Look at how low everything is. And this build does work on hard, and you'll find that this build actually is pretty good in challenging. I can go through challenging with this build. Yeah, it's not great, and it's definitely hard. But imagine if this build was optimized. Imagine if I even just optimized all the stats on this, and it's not even got any brand talents on it or whatever, or any high-end talents. I could get through challenging okay. And then if you put brand talents on top of that and you optimize everything, and even if you've got your shade levels up, you're going to find that heroic becomes doable, and then legendary, although I've heard legendary is beyond scary at the moment. But that's it. I just wanted to show you what I'm at, and just basically say to you guys that honestly, as long as you're running good stuff and you synergize stuff a little bit, I mean, I'm not synergizing anything here, then you'll find that even content like hard or even challenging is not too difficult. And that's coming from someone who, by the way, guys, if you've watched my videos, all of my footage is from normal difficulty. I don't play hard content because I'm just not very good at it. And that's coming from me, who just doesn't play hard content. But you're going to see more of that on this channel because I'm learning. So if I had one concern or one thing I would like to address, it's the bullet sponge issue. I have to admit, it does feel like the enemies progressively get a lot more bullet spongy as the content gets harder. Now, I know they have to get more tanky, that's pretty normal, but it appears that when you start hitting challenging or going beyond that to heroic, the amount of time it takes to down even an elite is scary long, which is something the devs said they didn't want to do. It's so long, in fact, I've seen encounters where people just simply run out of ammo. The devs said they wanted to make NPCs to get smarter, but that doesn't appear to be the case. What's happening is the NPCs just all rush you, and I think it's because within the NPC programming, the NPCs determine the amount of damage you are outputting when they take damage from you. They then calculate how long it would take them to get to you and realise you won't be able to down them before they get there. So they know that you can't down them in time, so they run towards you. Again, what I will say is I don't have an optimised build, so I cannot say for sure whether the tankiness is too much at this point, but it appears that way. Also, the devs have to look at armour for players. It feels like having the lowest amount of armour or the highest amount of armour makes no difference. I've run 800k armour, which is basically the minimum, and I've ran 1.8 million armour, and it really didn't feel any different at all. I think this has to be looked at, because right now everyone is running DPS builds for that very reason. The best defense is a great offense and all of that. But that's it for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed this one, and until the next time, Epic out.